Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Elka. I should see slides here. I do. Perfect. And right, left mouse click goes to the right one. Perfect. Thank you. Yes. Good morning, everyone. And like many of you, I also wear many hats. In this case, I am working with the European Internet Foundation. And in this, we created a report which we launched in the European Parliament recently. And I will be talking to you about some of the findings in the report and what that means for you as entrepreneurs and innovators. I have a few copies of the report as well. It's free online, but I have some hard copies which I can give you as well today. So, a bit about what I do. I have an academic and research background, partly at Oxford and partly also at the Technical University of Madrid. So I also have a blog and things like that. So perfect, yeah. So first of all, very much echoing what Ilka just said is that the key findings of the report are firstly, we believe that European strengths are significant. So I think that echoing what Ilka said before was that it's not about just the lagging situation. So there are strengths in design, there are strengths in global leadership, and so on. So this is the first trend we identify speaking to a whole bunch of people from the industry as well as the policy space. The second thing I think is, of course, that the digital genie, nobody can put it in the bottle back again. And also what that means is that we need our own ambient internet, our own internet, our own special manifestation of how we can use the internet to provide better services and fulfill some of the agendas which the EU has at the policy level. So in that sense, the FI-PPP program is great, and I see that very much as a physical manifestation of the wider vision. So I'll be personally following that as well. The report has 5 sections, and the interesting thing about this particular thing is it's not only about technology, because I think many of us are seduced by technology, and I, for part of my work, involve looking at machine learning algorithms and applying them to IoT networks, so I'm very much familiar with the technology. But I think that we also talk about the socioeconomic trends, the policy trends, and what it means. And finally, we talk about what it means for Europe in 2030. 2030 sounds like a very far away time frame, but actually it is not. Because if you look at the telco rollouts, if you look at 5G being looked at 2020 by most instances, then you can more or less look at how the world is going to go through. And we use some real benchmarkers for that. So if you look at the vision of by 2020, again, you have 50 billion connected devices. Those sort of frameworks is what we use to predict. I wouldn't say predict accurately, I would say predict the trends of where the world is going to 2030, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that afterwards. We also talk about what is called the knowing society in the report. The knowing society is more than big data. I think it's more that you have all the information with you at all the time, and the implications of specifically from our instance, what it means to citizens, what it means to people, and that's the sort of vision we try to build in. Again, coming back to the previous discussions, is to talk about the ecosystem. And again, we talk about the need to create an ecosystem, which again, I see the FI-PPP very much creating the foundations of that ecosystem. So very much interested to see what we hear in the next couple of days. And for us, the networks are important. Networks are important because everybody knows we are living in the world of mobile, but specifically what that means when you look at the 5G networks, for example, how it incorporates all these various trends together and what they would mean for services is what we are interested in, and specifically jobs and socioeconomic situation. And finally, this is my son, 10.5 years old, with the Raspberry Pi. We are very much deeply involved with the Raspberry Pi Foundation with my role. And what we talk about also is skills. what we talk about also is the fact that the next generation is going to be fundamentally aware of all these technologies, and what is it that we can do as from a policy perspective to make that happen. And skills means not just the skills of physical technology skills, but in our perspective also the skill to understand what is right and wrong on the internet. So it's the critical thinking skills and all those skills being taught together. And the one other final important bit is internet-ready legislation. I think that the rate of legislation as we go towards technology will change quite a bit. It's a hard thing to talk to people to speed up regulation, to make things faster for entrepreneurs, but we do raise this topic. And I think that this idea that internet ready regulation and regulation in a global competitive space is a new idea, and we try certainly to push it forward as best as we can. So, FI-PPP program, from what I have seen so far, and I was briefly aware of it, of course, before this, but having spent much more time now looking into it, I think it's fascinating both from a perspective of an academic SME as well as from a policy point of view. So I definitely hope we will continue this discussion forward. Now, in the last few minutes of my time, about 5 minutes of my time, I'm going to give you a personal perspective. I've been tracking the telco industry and mobile industry for many, many years, and I'm going to talk to you about platforms and why I think platforms are so important, and therefore, by extension, what FI-PPP is doing is quite important. If you look at these first three things, the things in the top and things at the bottom, the things in the top are basically not platforms, and the things at the bottom, the four things at the bottom, including Android, Twitter, Facebook, and iPhone, even if they may not be perfect, they are platforms. By platforms, I mean that people can use a particular capacity of that device, of that network, to do unpredictable things. So they are not designed in advance. You could take something and you could create something completely different out of that. And the bottom four are very interesting because they are platforms and they have ruled the world today in a very short time. So if you look at what happened with SMS versus WhatsApp, you can see why, because every platform makes it significant. The other thing is when you look at tracking innovation, I always track it from the light bulbs and transmission networks perspective. When you look at the beginning of electric networks, you had various different technologies. You had AC, DC with Edison, Tesla, and so on and so forth. At some point in time, all those fights resolved, and then innovation shifted to the next level above. By next level above, I mean innovation shifted to building light bulbs. Yes, and I think we are coming to that point. We are coming to the point where we have some kind of a basic platform, and then people are going to use, people in this room, people like me also, we are going to use these platforms to create something, create the light bulbs. And that I think is the significance of our event in the next 2 days. Our industry is mature. I mean, I've been in the mobile data industry since about 1999, so that's just the data side of the mobile industry. And we have a fairly allocated way of how the industry is going. For example, if you look at the 5G cycles are pretty predictable. If you look at the 50 billion devices, if you look at the radio conferences, so every year there is a radio conference, the next one is November 2015. And all of these are basically predictable markers to how the industry is going. So it's a rapidly growing industry, but it's a very predictable industry at this point in time. What does it mean? If you look at the early stage innovations, you had basically very specific device type innovation. These are some of the phones I had myself. Nokia 7110, my earliest phone. I loved it. and things like that. And those innovations came along, and they are not very far away if you are in the industry as I have been for so long. Then the iPhone came along. That was a platform, and that was a big difference. Prior to that was the iNode, and of course with the iPhone, that changed everything. Where it's going to go, I think, is that we are going to go towards a consolidation of platforms, providing subsequently 3 types of innovation. The first one, what I call, is the long-tail apps type innovation. The second one is what I call is across the stack innovation. So you're going to combine features like IoT with apps and so on. And the third one is what I call the platform innovation. And the platform innovation is where I see the FI-PPP pretty much ruling the space within the European context. And I hope that this will be successful in that regard. That really is all I wanted to say. So in real terms, I think what we are seeing here today is the manifestation of a vision which is very predictable. It's actually not rocket science. If you look at some of these previous slides, these things are not new. The industry is now very clearly going to a certain direction, and the time now is to build these platforms and to grow from those platforms. And the internet is a great platform in itself. So internet as a global platform is amazing. But there are also manifestations locally where new services and new capabilities are created, and especially within geography. And I think the Americans do this very well. I mean, if you look at DARPA, for example, the DARPA funding, and we don't have a DARPA. And I always talk to my American friends, and they say, well, you don't have as many wars as we do. So we need the GPSs, and we need the drones and stuff like that. But I think that wars are no wars. I think it's great that I think we should have an initiative which takes moonshots effectively, and that really is what I see very much the coming together of a framework where we as a community, as a European community, can go ahead and build stuff. One final thing about what I do, I mentioned this is something I'm very interested in. If you want to collaborate on this, please send me an email or a note. I'm looking at applying machine learning algorithms to IoT systems. I'm running a workshop in Palo Alto in June. I'm also teaching the same thing in the Technical University of Madrid, and possibly open sourcing some of those platforms, some of those algorithms. So I think that will be certainly something of interest to, I hope, some of you here as well. The final bit here is the report itself is pretty much online. You can download it from the slides here. We also have a LinkedIn group, and the purpose of the group or the purpose of the network is to keep it as a living document. So I'm hoping that I can interview some of you, and what we do is we take your viewpoints and we update it in the report, and of course we feed it. The policymakers look at the space as well. So we hope that some of the ideas which you have in this space can enrich what we are doing as well. So it's a collaboration effort. Thank you very much for inviting me, and we are in the European Internet Foundation, so I'm about 2 minutes early, but perfect. Thank you.